evening and welcome to the June 4th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast by FCTV on cable channel 9. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. We're kind of missing a member, but we're kind of not. So for the record, our appointed alternate tonight is Ronnie Bowman. And just as a reminder for commenting, I'll call on each of you in turn so that we're not tripping over each other, and that all votes have to be done by roll call. So when I call your name, please state your name and your vote for the record, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public attendees, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If, as an attendee, you'd like to participate in a particular hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, you'll be promoted into the hearing as a participant. When you are selected, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. Regarding RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the Commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project may proceed as proposed. A positive determination generally means the provisions of the Act and/or the bylaw do in fact apply and/or may require some conditions. Therefore, the project would require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you kind of want to hear a negative response. For the benefit of anyone waiting for a particular hearing tonight, and so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearings are expected to be continued: 0 Central Avenue, 42 Chase Road, and 10 Central Avenue. First up tonight is to vote minutes, May 14, 2025. Anyone?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes as written and pending any comments this evening. Patton.
Thank you.
Robbins, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of May 14. Questions or comments or input? We're voting to accept the minutes. Bill?
Duffy, aye.
Courtney? Courtney? Can you guys hear me? No.
Yeah.
Courtney, we can't hear you.
Thank you. Matthews, aye. Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
Ronnie?
Bowman, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of May 14th as submitted. Next up, excuse me, to accept the minutes of May 21st, 2025. Ronnie, you're not on this quorum. You were not at that meeting. Anyone?
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed the minutes. I'd move approval as written, pending any comments this evening.
Driscoll, second.
Excellent. We have a motion in competition for the second. It's always good. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept the minutes of May 21st. Bill?
Duffy, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have accepted the minutes of May 21st. Thank you, Kristen. Next up is a request for a continuance for determination of applicability. First up, Patrick Burke, 158 Church Street, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reinstall mitigation plantings in accordance with Mass DEP number 25-4051. Is this Alyssa?
Yes.
I think it is.
The applicant has requested a continuance until June 11th.
Bird, so move.
Driscoll, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this request until June 11th. Questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Ronnie,
Holman, aye.
Russ.
I didn't quite catch you there. I wanted to question how many times this has been continued.
Everything's all set for next week. We received everything today, just not in time for tonight.
Robbins, aye. Thank you, Alyssa.
Steve,
Patton, aye.
it is unanimous. We have continued this until 6/11. Next up, our request for a continuance under a notice of intent. First up, Ronaldo Andrade, 0 Central Avenue. Map and parcel ID is 32-04-004-002, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a single-family dwelling and install a Title V sewage disposal system on an undeveloped lot. And for clarity, this is a new application for a property we've seen in the recent past. Okay, Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until June 25th. There was a scheduling conflict in their office.
Okay.
Bird, so move.
Driscoll, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until 6:25. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Ronnie,
Holman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this to 6:25. Next up, Susan Garland, 42 Chase Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove approximately 7,100 square feet of common reed, Phragmites australis. Ooh, Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until July 23rd.
Bird, so move.
Driscoll, second.
That's a long way out. This is like the third time it's been continued.
Yes, there were a lot of issues with the property, and we're trying to get that cleared up before it gets to the board. Tyler Gendreau was the person that filed the application, and he is now working with Dave Martin to get all the elements on the plan correctly.
Okay. Curious. All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till July 23rd. Questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Ronnie,
Holman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We've continued this till July 23rd. Next up, Nicholas Bocronis, 10 Central Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove a patio, construct an addition, install a fence, and install plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until 6/25.
Bird, so move.
Driscoll, second.
And again, this is one I can't count this high. 7 continuances.
We were at the finish line, and apparently the applicant wanted to make changes. So the engineering company is making the changes the applicant requested.
Okay, but this was opened, right? So ultimately, when this comes up, we're gonna have to verify the quorum.
Yeah. And
Okay.
that or people have to read it into the record. So
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to continue this till June 25th. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Ronnie,
Holman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until June 25th. Next up, request for determination of applicability. First up, Town of Falmouth Conservation Department. Can we vote on ourselves? 170 Hatchville Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to conduct invasive species removal and restoration 25 feet past the limit of disturbance of Mass DEP number 25-4902. Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Driscoll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation for staff's own project. All right. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Ronnie,
Bowman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
No.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Brian Malinsky, 20 Montgomery Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconstruct a deck. Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project solely takes place in an AE flood zone.
Bird, so move.
Driscoll second.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Ronnie,
Bowman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
No.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Ronald Porter, 106 Bay Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to pump dry, fill and abandon or remove existing cesspools and install a new Title V sewage disposal system. Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Driscoll second.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Ronnie,
Bowman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
And no.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Courtney, you're recused.
Yes, thank you.
Next up, Courtney Bird, 43 Sipworset Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a timber retaining wall. Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
So moved,
Driscoll.
Robbins.
Driscoll second.
Thank you. All right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Ronnie,
Bowman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
And no.
It is unanimous. With this quorum, we have accepted staff's recommendation.
Thank you.
Next up, Janice Orr, 65 Marvin Circle, Falmouth, Mass. For after the fact permission to conduct vista pruning according to FWR 10.18 10B. Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Driscoll second.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting to accept staff's recommendation. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Ronnie,
Bowman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
And no.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Alex M. and Karen A. Bajan, 53 Cape Cod Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to provide construction access through the buffer of a coastal bank. Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Driscoll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting Bill,
Duffy, I.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Ronnie,
Bowman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Barry Hannon, 71 Water Street, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove 13 pilings. Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Driscoll, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting Bill,
Duffy, I.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Ronnie,
Bowman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, a continued request for determination of applicability. First one's been previously continued, brings us to Andrea Rosen, 15 Bayshore Drive, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a screened porch and install mitigation plantings. Alyssa.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so moved.
Driscoll, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting Bill,
Duffy, I.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Ronnie,
Bowman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Thank you, Alyssa and Fallon. Next up, request for a hearing under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Nathan Holcomb, 270 Sippowisset Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to demolish an existing deck, remove an area of gravel, and construct a screened porch, deck, and garage. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, Angela Tanner of Crawford Land Management to present their projects. Good evening, Mike and
Excellent.
Angela.
Good evening.
Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering, and I represent the applicant. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'm sharing with you the current plan of existing conditions. The lot's on the corner of Haynes Avenue and Sippowisset Road at number 270 Sippowisset. It's a lot having just over 22,000 square feet of land. There's a modest home in the center of the lot. It has typical landscaping, driveway, yard, and lawn areas. To the rear of the lot is a small wetland, isolated wetlands vegetation. It measures approximately 20 feet by 20 feet. It's not recognized as a wetland in the DEP regulations, but it is recognized as a wetland under your local regulations. So this plan shows the edges of the wetland as they were delineated by LEC Environmental. There was a comment from your staff on that delineation that I'll get to in a minute. Your buffer regulations require a 50-foot no disturbance zone from the edge of the wetland and a 50-foot outer buffer zone from 50 to 100 feet from the wetland. So this plan shows shaded in an orange color, what we've determined to be areas of impervious surfaces for the purposes of calculating mitigation requirements for the proposed project. More on that in a few minutes, but there's a summary of that here in the existing impervious surface calculations. It's all of those surfaces are in the outer buffer zone B. There's nothing in the no disturbance zone A. Now the proposed project shows the same 50-foot no disturbance zone and then the 50-foot outer buffer zone, but it shows the proposed elements of the project and the existing that will remain all shaded in orange. They include a new deck, a screened-in porch, a proposed one-car garage, and an access walkway. This will allow for more enjoyable use of the outside. It'll allow for parking of one car undercover. There'll be a deck area at the back of the house for outside recreation use. This has been designed not so that nothing is within the no disturbance zone A. Nothing's proposed. It's basically in all areas that were previously disturbed. They're either lawn, gravel, crushed stone areas, or existing structure. And we tabulated on this plan the surfaces that are proposed in the B zone as compared to what exists, and we got a net increase of 336 square feet. So we applied a factor of 2 because it's in the outer buffer zone and came up with 672. We rounded up to 680. So Crawford Land Management did a design plan, and Angela Tanner's here to talk about that, but we showed, just for reference, the required mitigation planting, the 680 square feet in and around the wetland. Your staff has some comments on that as well. I just wanted to give you an overview. So the staff comments, the one that I'm going to address, which is a fairly significant one, is the matter of what to use for calculating impervious surfaces. Your current regulations are somewhat in a state of flux. It used to be routine and always accepted, at least when I did my calculations, that crushed stone areas were considered areas that could be used or credited for if they were to be removed, or required to mitigate for if they were proposed. Driveways, crushed shell, crushed gravel areas were all sort of in the same category. If they were proposed, you mitigated for them. If they were removed, you got credit for them. If you occupied a crushed stone driveway with a garage, it wasn't an increase because it was already there. You've seen numerous projects like that, but there was a recent project, not very recently, but in the not too distant past, where another engineering firm pointed out that the regulation was written very specifically with a recognition that in the B zone, you did not have to mitigate for crushed stone areas. So going forward from them, there seems to be a transition into going back and applying the rules like that. We applied them the way that we traditionally applied them. And there's a big difference. If you don't count the crushed stone areas like this, where we're proposing new things like a garage or a deck, then the required mitigation is significantly bigger. So your staff is of the position that we have to go by the letter of the actual written regulation, even though there were a lot of projects that I presented to you where we didn't do it that way, and people planted a lot of mitigation because of that. But that's the gist of my concern, because the change in required mitigation will be significant if we can't use the gravel areas. I'm pretty sure that Jen will say that you have to go by what the regulation says in words, but I'm hopeful you can make findings in this case. If not, we're going to have to regroup and continue the hearing for that reason alone. I also know from conversations that you want to change the regulation so that crushed stone areas do count as a required mitigation area in B zones. So it's sort of a fuzzy, and we're looking for direction. So there are other staff comments about more specific things related to the mitigation, planting location, the invasives that are in and around the location where the wetland is. I'm going to turn that over to Angela to talk about, and then I'm sure staff will have comments, and we'd like to hear from you about this matter of the impervious surfaces. And then we're both here to take questions.
Thanks, Mike. Angela. Angela, you with us?
We can't hear you, Angela.
Angela, you ghosting us? No? I'm gonna take it personal.
Seems like my microphone is not working.
Can
We hear you
barely
now.
hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Phew. Fourth time's a charm.
Angela, can you turn it up a bit?
I'll turn up quite a bit.
Is that better?
Much better,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. So I am sharing my screen. Can you see the mitigation plan?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So the strategy for this plan was to focus on the wetland area, realizing that there is some existing vegetation in there. I would characterize it as a mix of native and invasive plantings. Mostly the native plantings are concentrated in the wetland. There's a lot of ferns in there. Although the last time I was out there, it looked like they did come out a little bit further than where this boundary is shown. Part of the mitigation, this whole side of it here was planned for lawn, at least as shown in the survey. The edge of the existing vegetation is back here, so we planned to have this part of the lawn filling in with plantings, and then the other areas are mostly devoid of any shrub vegetation. There are a lot of vines. There are a few invasive shrubs. There's barberry and privet in there. So our hope was that we could utilize some of those bare areas and protect this area of the wetland. And we have approximately 50 shrubs of mixed varieties, and then we have a serviceberry tree. Recognizing that there are a few trees in there, I think we can, they were not on the survey, so I think the final plantings would be obviously located so that they would not impact the trees. And I know that one of the staff comments was asking about the history of clearing, and I can't respond to that today. I actually don't know. Prior to when we started this plan, if it doesn't look like anything else has been cleared since then. So if there was something else that was done at an earlier date, I guess we would have to try to sort that out. And I think there was also a concern that a previous filing, this area was approved for mitigation, but the circumstances were slightly different. There was, in that filing, there was a proposal to do more restoration area, and the plantings that were in here hadn't been there for very long. And so I don't know how to respond to the amount of time that the plantings have been in here. I'm only evaluating it from a standpoint that I think most of the landscape around this wetland is degraded, and I think it can benefit from being part of the buffer. The client at this time did not want to tackle this greater, larger area with restoration, so that's why it's not part of the plan. And there was another comment about our little gravel area over here. That's just an error. It wasn't calculated in the mitigation, so we can just remove it from our plan so that it matches Mike's plan. And I think that covers everything that we did.
All right. Thank you. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. First off, that wetland hasn't been, that delineation is like 7 years old, so we're gonna need the delineation updated with the new required data sheets. We follow DEP's data sheets. They did change the methodology for delineating wetlands. So we're gonna need to see, we'll have to have those sheets updated.
We can do that.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. As Mike said, there was a time where the board was counting gravel and requiring it to be mitigated for. And then within the past year or so, you started going the other way, that gravel was permittable without mitigation. I'm just trying to keep the board and the engineers very consistent with how you're interpreting that right now. So my recommendation is that Mike cannot count the gravel as existing coverage. We are working on changing that, where gravel will be required to be mitigated for. Impervious surface that doesn't support natural vegetation will require to be mitigated for. We haven't gotten there yet. So in this case, staff has no other choice but to recommend that you not count the gravel as existing mitigation in accordance with your current regulations. So Mike would have to do more mitigation, or the applicant would have to do more mitigation. As far as the vegetation goes, something's been, and Angela, we know you can only look at, you were hired recently to look at this. But and we can show you, if you go back through the near map photos, something was done on that site between 2019 and now. We can see little trees had been planted, areas had been cleared. This board has always been very consistent with not allowing, invasives to be removed in order to install mitigation. There was an exception made in this case back in 2019 because there was such a wide, such a large restoration project. It started originally as an enforcement. They came in with the notice and they were proposing to restore a large area that had been removed without a permit. So the board made an allowance in that case. This plan is a bit different where we're not seeing that improvement to the property. And I think those are just my main points. And I have nothing else.
All right. Alyssa?
Just our last comment, Mike, there really wasn't a limit of work around the back corner of the garage with that very large boulder and the current edge of vegetation. It doesn't seem probable that'll be able to be constructed without extending that limit of work. So if you can update that for us, and then the commission can determine if any restoration should be required.
Can I share my screen again?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I think you're talking about this area here.
Yes.
Yeah, so just to clarify, there's an existing boulder, massive boulder that was shown on the plan, and the design works around it. So there's the existing brush or vegetated line is right here. So yeah, I would agree that there's a little bit of alteration of that, but it's in the B zone. And the boulder, of course, is we're not moving that. It's pretty big. So there might be a little bit of vegetation right here that has to get removed. That's the only place, but we can show that.
Thank you.
And we can add the limit of work.
Thank you.
It's just the bigger picture. All these things we can do, but the project might be in flux until your regs change, unless you're able to find a way to make findings or in some way to recognize the mitigation changes. But I can't really convince you of that. I just wanted to get the feedback, and my client then will have as much information as he could have to make an intelligent decision.
All right, Alyssa, you good? All right, commissioner comments. Courtney, I'm going to start with you, not to put Bill on the spot.
Mike, I think you're gonna have to deal with the driveway mitigation. We did, in our deliberations of the commission earlier, look at the question of whether or not a gravel driveway was pervious surface or not. I'm in the minority position that I would agree that it is pervious. However, the regulations, and you have to mitigate for them. No other comment.
All right. I agree and I disagree with that. I think the project looks good. I like the mitigation. I think replacing the driveway with a garage is just kind of the same thing. So I'm okay with it. That's my 2 cents. Ron?
Yeah, I just said the dry well where you're placing it right next to those boulders, is any chance that that's going to work? I mean, there's a big boulder, there's another boulder, and I don't see how that dry well location would ever work. Not without blasting. So
That's a good point. We can shift the drywall location. I didn't really think about the boulder and its impact. I just was showing the intent to put a drywall or two for the new roof areas. We can certainly shift the drywalls around further from the boulder.
all right, that's all I have. Thanks, Mike.
All right. But Ron brings up a good point, Mike, that, that boulder is like an iceberg. I mean, you don't necessarily know that it goes straight down or anything, but that's something you're not going to know until you get into it too. So it looks like you're far enough away zoning wise, and I'm not trying to get out of my purview, but it's possible that garage would have to go forward, right?
Yes, the screen porch is something that would probably be on sonotubes, not in the garage. Of course, cross wall.
Yeah. Just something to think about.
Yep.
Ronnie?
I'm in agreement with you, Jamie, as well. That boulder that might go out into the garage itself might have to move forward. And with the debate with the gravel, I just got to take the back seat right now until we get some clarity on it. But I think it'll look pretty straightforward to me.
Excellent. Russ?
I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. You said it all. I think it's a good project.
Thank you. Steve?
I similarly agree. I think that, in my opinion, gravel driveways are pervious. And that's where I stand on that broader issue. But I like the project. I didn't think it was terribly complicated to deal with the wetland that was there. Thank you.
Yep. All right, Bill.
I don't have a comment right now.
Okay. I am going to put you on the spot one of these days, though, just so you know. All right. Jen, did I see your hand up?
I just want to say that if you believe the gravel driveway is pervious and a garage is impervious, then the garage should be mitigated for, according to your regs.
Is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, but Mr. Chairman, we do need a continuance just to get that wetland line redone.
All right. What do we have for dates?
Oh,
Not the 25th.
but I can make it easy for you. We're not going to be able to be back until July. And we're looking at, you're not meeting on the 9th. Let's see, yeah, nothing on the 9th because of, how dare her, but I think Angela's going on vacation, or it's not my business, but she's not available. So I'm going to assume it's vacation, and how dare her for that. But, so we're looking at July 16th. We both have busy schedules and we deserve vacations.
I'm going to take a year off, I think.
That's
Since you suggested that.
So I'm asking for the 16th of July.
Thank you.
Thank
At the
you.
request of the applicant, I move that we continue this hearing till July 16.
Driscoll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this till July 16th. Last call. Questions or comments? Jen?
One last comment. So Mike, when you come in on this, the next time you're before us with gravel in a B zone, you're going to mitigate for it?
I'm probably going to
Can't have it both ways.
look at the minutes of the hearing and contemplate and consult with my client and decide what he wants to do and propose the plan based on that, and you can vote on the plan as is.
I meant for a different client.
Oh, well,
You can't have it both ways, Mike.
moving forward, I'm hearing loud and clear, but this was a unique one because you heard this project earlier in 2019 when the same regulations applied and you used gravel as impervious. I was just trying to follow the same tack that you did on this. Unfortunately, one of our other engineering firms for his project found the loophole. So it cuts both ways. I agree with Jen. So it's sort of hard to come in next time with crushed stone driveway and say, I don't have to mitigate when this one I'm asking for it. So I get that, but I have to talk to my client and make a decision. And then it might be that it sounds like the reg change is imminent and maybe we'll punt. And
Well, we have to, yeah, it's going to be a while because we have to have the public hearings. We got to write it up, get council to look at it. It is going to be a couple of months.
Unfortunately, we got caught in the middle of this flux. That's why I call it flux. And we're
No
trying
problem. But
to navigate.
I'm going to tease you if you come back in with
I would
gravel
never
and no
do that. I know
mitigation.
better. I know better than to have a double standard. But I'm gonna consult with the applicant and decide what to do.
Okay.
So can we go back to this project, please? So we have a continuance motion and a second to continue this to 7/16. Any other comments relevant to this? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Bill?
Duffy, aye.
Courtney?
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Ron?
Driscoll aye.
Ronnie?
Bowman, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until July 16th. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Blow up tens.
Night, guys.
I'm on for the next one.
Oh, yeah, you are. Night, Angela. She already left. She booted.
All right. All right. Next hearing has been previously continued. Next up, a continued request for hearing under notice of intent. The next two have been previously continued. Brings us to continued request to amend an existing order of conditions. Pincinel Builders, 362 Ecopesket Road, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4831 to revise the planting plan. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mike Borselli is still with us from Falmouth Engineering, and I've promoted Ian Warner from Acer Landscape Design to present the amended planting plan.
All right, Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is really Ian's presentation. I'm happy to share my screen and his plan if necessary. I'll leave that to Ian. Do you want me to share your plan?
That's all right, Mike. I can share.
Okay.
At the pleasure of the commission.
Absolutely.
So for the record, my name is Ian Warner. I'm with Acer Landscape Design, representing our clients at 362 Ecopesket Road. Wanted to first thank staff, Jen and Alyssa, for coming out and helping us with this over the past week. I think we have gotten to a point where we've satisfied the sides of both the commission and the owners who have been looking to do the proper mitigation through this whole process. And I hope that the commission is going to feel the same. And to that, I open it up to you guys if you have any questions.
All right. You can stop sharing. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we met out there with Mr. Warner and the applicants, discussed our concerns, discussed their concerns, and I think we've come to a good, happy medium. This is something that the staff can support. So that's all my only questions. Any comments?
Excellent. Good to know. Alyssa.
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner comments. I'm good with this. So that's my comment. Ron.
Yeah, I'm going with it too. I'm glad to see the applicant and the staff work together to come out with that complicated plan. Thanks. That's all I have.
Ronnie.
I think we move forward.
Yep. Russ.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
Steve.
All set, sir. Thank you.
All right. Bill.
Well, the staff are good with it. I'm good with it.
Excellent. Courtney.
All's good.
Wow. All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Chair, I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Driscoll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call. Questions or comments? We're voting to close the hearing. Bill.
Duffy, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
Ronnie.
Bowman, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Ian.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night. They're gone too.
Next up, continued hearings under an enforcement order. Jane Furr, 2622 and 0 Shoreview Avenue. Map and parcel ID is 39-02C-000-504, Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of salt marsh vegetation and unpermitted reconstruction of a deck within conservation jurisdiction. Jen or Alyssa? Jen.
Alyssa.
Ah, caught me. I'll get it right one of these days. No, I won't.
The homeowner's representative has requested a continuance until July 2nd. They're finishing up the plan, and this will give us time to go over it prior to coming to you.
Bird, so moved.
Driscoll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this matter until July 2nd. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting on the continuance. Bill,
Duffy, I.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Ronnie,
Holman, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until July 2nd. Next up is to vote orders of conditions. And let's see, Courtney, you're not on the first two. Ronnie, you're not on any of them. So if you want to leave, you can leave. If you want to hang out with the rest of us. First up, Joseph F. McDonald III and Alan Durkazarian, trustees. Isabel Durkazarian, 2012 Irrevocable Trust, 497 Central Ave, Falmouth, Mass. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is the project, they had the eroding coastal bank. They were coming in with the high marsh concept to restore that, more like a soft solution. And then behind that kind of high marsh solution, they are proposing almost like a subterranean wall, like encircling where the encircling the edge of the salt marsh. We prefer to see them try the high marsh solution first, as opposed to putting in a vinyl sheet wall. This isn't the first one of these types of projects you're going to see. And I think it's a way of just basically armoring the property without, armoring it. I mean, it is right on top of that salt marsh. It will not allow that salt marsh to migrate landward. And it's basically just walling off the property. So the staff does have concerns with it. We understand the concern from the resident about the escarpment in the area that was eroded down and could support that cobble high marsh concept they've proposed, along with the restoration and invasive species and restoration project. We just do have some serious concerns with this wall concept, the sheet pile wall. That's all. That was what the project was. So.
Alyssa.
In addition to that, I did have some notes when it comes to the restoration. They were proposing the use of switchgrass. We have been asking for that to be removed out of seed mixes recently due to its aggressive nature. So the staff would recommend that get removed from the planting plan. There was a note to add a pre-construction and to make Wilkinson the sole entity to follow through with the project. I did ask for 2 very minor plan revisions and to stop mowing the area that is currently salt marsh that has been mowed for several years, so it can grow back and continue to protect the property. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Oh, I kind of think, it's 20 feet from the house and the septic. So I don't know. I'm thinking that, they have the right to protect that. I'm not sure the salt marsh, and especially if it's eroding, is gonna help that. Alyssa.
Just a quick comment. The erosion that occurred was only from that previous winter's storms. So it was a one-time event that caused the erosion. It's not something that has been acknowledged as ongoing, if that impacts at all.
No, I hear you. And with widening the channel, will that create more? I mean, time will tell, I guess, but it's all hypothetical. I'm just leaning towards protecting the house and the septic, as well as the salt marsh. But it just seems to me with that protection, that salt marsh could flourish. Maybe not migrate, but it would flourish where it is. That's just my 2 cents. Other comments, questions, input?
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with you, Jamie. That's the septic system is right there. How long do we go with the soft method to protect the salt marsh or to restore the salt marsh before it's just doesn't work and it's too late to put in the vinyl siding, the vinyl wall.
Right. All right. Steve, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I am considerably more concerned about the construction than the engineers were. I was surprised by that. I think, particularly during construction, there's going to be some major changes in the flow, and I would support this project.
Thank you. Did we lose Courtney?
If you
Oh,
say
he's not on this.
honest.
I'm sorry. Never mind. We want to lose Courtney. Never mind. Russ. Russ, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm good, Mr. Chairman. I'm kind of in agreement with everybody else on this.
Okay. Bill.
The same. I'm in agreement with everybody else. I rather protect the septic and see that doesn't leach out at all. So I think I'm following suit with you guys.
Okay. I mean, it's a big picture view, right? So, all right. Any other questions, comments, or input? All right, I would entertain a motion and a second.
I'll motion to condition as discussed.
Patton, second.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second on the table to issue an order of conditions. Jen, is that your hand raised? It's a finger
Yeah, I
raised.
just want clarity from the board. Can we condition the no switchgrass and the other items that Alyssa mentioned?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
thank
Yes,
you.
please. Thank
Okay.
you. Okay. Anything else? All right, we're voting to issue an order of conditions. Bill.
Duffy, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ron.
Driscoll, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. With this quorum, we have issued an order of conditions. Next up, John R. Callahan, trustee, Ardmore by the Sea, nominee trust 0, Brockton Street, map and parcel ID is 46A-07-000-042, Falmouth, Mass. Jen. And again, the quorum, this excludes Ronnie and Courtney. Sorry.
This is the house in a velocity zone. We've got the updated architecturals, taking all the paneling off, the size of the enclosure, which off the top of my head, I can't remember. Pretty straightforward project. The only concern the staff has was like at the end of Brockton and along that kind of swath over there, there's been historically mowing of that salt marsh. I, at the hearing, was trying to toss out ideas on how to protect the salt marsh. I don't know if putting maybe a row of plants along the property line, even though that's further away from the salt marsh.
It's also one lot away, is it not?
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like one lot away. It's under all the same ownership. I'm trying to brainstorm on how to protect that little marsh because it's just been mowed. And it is coming, it will come back. I mean, we can see the salt marsh grasses in there and everything. I mean, we can condition no mowing of the salt marsh, but we all know how that goes. So any ideas the board would have on how we protect that marsh, I'd be welcome to them.
First off, that's a different property, right?
Yeah.
Ownership, though, you said?
Yes.
So really all we can do is suggest, right? Ask.
Okay.
Or we could take it to an enforcement level, correct?
Yeah.
For no mowing. So let's put in the order conditions, a request that they stop mowing at least.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know that you can do much else because it's one,
I know,
one
because it's
parcel removed, you know?
Yeah, I get it. I'm trying.
No, I
Yeah.
understand your concern as well, and so let's start with that, the suggestion, and then if it has to go to enforcement, we go to enforcement, unfortunately,
I had
you
with that
know?
one.
All right, questions, comments, input from any commissioners? I don't see any hand raised, a lot of, all right. All right, so all the standard stuff,
Yeah.
it's on town sewer, retain the 16-inch oak and the cedars, which I think they agreed to. So, all right, I would take a motion in a second if you're interested.
Motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed. Driscoll.
Patton second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Last call. Any input? We're voting to issue an order of conditions. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Matthews, aye. Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Russ,
Robinson,
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous with this quorum. We have issued an order of conditions. Thank you. Next up, John and Lisa Almquist, 43 Neves Way, Falmouth, Mass. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is the dock in the velocity zone. It's a much larger structure than what currently is out there. And your regulations say there can be no expansion of docks in a velocity zone. And this is one in a slightly different location, and two is a much larger structure than what is out there. So in staff does not believe it meets your current regulations.
Good. Hold on, Courtney. Alyssa.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
All right, Courtney.
I agree with staff.
Okay, so I'll poll everyone, but just for clarity, I'm just trying to think what we were. I had the minutes from last week. If they wanted to, if we rejected this, to use a phrase, a word, could they reapply using the existing, or what they're claiming is the existing dock? I mean, we can't do that in this, or can we? How do we do that? Do you know what I'm asking?
No, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Staff, I mean, we've looked at this project enough. I can't comment to see what they would come back with it, but we definitely at a staff level could consider rebuilding what is currently out there. And I think that is what Alyssa, when she spoke with the property owner, was saying is like it, it's there, it's been there, we know it's been there, we can tell from the aerials, and we can support that being rebuilt.
Okay.
But there was testimony that this was destroyed in storms many years ago. It has not been maintained. Definitely cannot support an enlargement in a velocity zone. But I do think there's room for this board to consider rebuilding in kind in the same footprint what is currently there now.
Okay. Got it. Courtney?
Were that to happen, would a reconstruction be considered new or a repair? And then it gets into the question of, depth requirements, shellfish and all of that. So
This board has in the past allowed docks that have been on the property since the 70s with no licenses, no permitting. And in a velocity zone, you have allowed those structures to be rebuilt in kind.
even if they didn't apply for the amnesty back in the 90s.
Correct.
And Courtney, I've done thousands of docks with you guys over the last 20 years.
No, I'm just asking a question.
Yeah.
In other words,
I don't know the answer off the
but
top of my head, Courtney, but I know you have done several in V zones, even seasonal docks that you've allowed to be permanent, more permanent structures in V zones as long as they were in the same footprint.
So my concern is that the dock was essentially not used for a long period of time. So the question becomes, in my mind, did that sort of grandfathering that's implicit in what you're saying get essentially negated by the fact that it was not used? And
That
therefore,
is,
that's
That's
my
just
concern.
that's exactly the debate, though. Is do you grandfather what's existing? So bear with me for a second. So let's, for argument's sake tonight, let's say you accept the grandfathering that dock existed, but this application is to move it and enlarge it.
Mhm.
So that's what staff is opposed to, and maybe everybody, but I'm just stating what's already been said. So if a new application if this was denied and the new application came through to rebuild what was existing, you'd have the same quandary of, do you accept that
Yes, correct.
and grandfather? But that's for another day. Right
That's
now,
a different issue. Yeah.
even if you accepted grandfathering tonight, still accept that it got bigger and everything. That's really what the debate is, right?
Hmm.
For tonight.
Yeah.
Jen, I don't know if you're on mute or you turn your volume down or.
But
Can't hear you.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a discussion for another application. I don't think
Absolutely.
that has a, you know what I mean? I just, if they decide to reapply for the existing location, then we would have that discussion. I mean, I'm not 100%,
No, you're right. You're right.
You know,
That's all I was
so-
trying to clarify.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bill, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I mean, they did come to us and say that if the application is stated to extend, can you hear me?
Yeah, I have a problem though. Alyssa, I don't know if Bill's on this quorum.
No.
Sorry, Bill. I have to cut you off. Sorry about that. I should announce that first. Anybody else?
So at this point, if we're ready to vote, I think we should place a positive a motion on the table and we vote. If we choose not to accept it, then we vote no. Is that the process we want to follow?
That's correct. You want a positive motion that you're going to issue an order of conditions.
All right, so I will make that motion that we issue an order of conditions as proposed.
Driscoll second.
All right. Any other discussion, input? All right. We're voting, and the motion, the second on the table is to issue an order of conditions. Courtney?
Bird, no.
Matthews, no. Ron?
Driscoll, no.
Russ?
Robbins, no.
Steve?
Patton, no.
It is unanimous. With this quorum, the motion does not pass. Thank you. Sorry about that, Bill. All right. Last motion. Who wants it?
Mr. Chair, can I make one comment before we adjourn?
Absolutely.
And if I am repeating myself from something that happened in the previous meeting, then stop me. But I just want to express my thanks to Betsy Gladfelter for her 20-some plus years of service on this commission, and obviously for her service to the town. And all of that was very much appreciated.
You're here.
Yeah, Driscoll second.
agree.
Steve?
Mr. Chairman, I have a folder for 152 Sacassett Road for today.
Yeah, that was.
Did
that
it
was an
not get
error.
on? Didn't we advertise it in time or something?
We haven't advertised it yet, Steve, because we haven't received all the information. When Lori was processing the paperwork, she didn't realize that, so she handed it all to you. We will let you know when 152
That's fine.
Saconaset
Thank you.
is going to be advertised.
Just curious. Thank you.
Yeah. I asked
And
the same
now I'd like a
question.
motion to adjourn.
Bird second.
Second, Robbins.
All right. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Bill,
Duffy, aye.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye.
It's still
Ron,
Robbins, aye.
Pat and I. Pat and I.
Ronnie, I didn't hear you.
I missed the buzzer. Bowman, aye.
He wants to stay on. He's dedicated. I like that. Thank you, everyone.